wrapped up fall camp with our scrimmage on Saturday. Very situational, really a pretty short scrimmage, by design. I thought there's, like anything, right? There's a lot of good in it. I thought offensively, we scored touchdowns in the red zone. By nature, you should. A lot of it's in the red zone, stuff like that. Defensively, thought we did a really good job getting some stops in the 2-minute at the end. You should. That's kind of the way it's supposed to be. So, there's a lot of good in it. Had some guys make plays, had some guys step up. Unfortunately, injury-wise, we got some good and bad news. Brock Chappell and Broderick Stewart didn't finish the scrimmage. They're going to see the docs, today. We're hoping that it's not a long-term deal. They feel like Brock's is probably not. Broderick's, we're going to wait and see the imaging, kind of see what it looks like. The good news is Shelton's going to start working on some team reps this week, which is really good. We got 2 weeks to get him back. He's feeling good, looks really good. We're working into that. Maxie did miss the scrimmage last week. It's nothing major. It's some stuff that he's kind of been having, just a little bit of aggravation, in his arm. So, feel good about him getting back. But, we're going to wait and see with these other two. Hopefully it's nothing major in the next 2 weeks. We can get them back. This is the point where you finish camp, which is a big hurdle, right? That's a big check mark on your calendar, that you want to get through and you want to do a good job with it. And I think our kids did a really good job of working through it. I thought, approached it the right way. But now is where you got to get excited about what you've been working all year for, and that's the season. We've got 2 weeks to prepare for Lamar. And, we need to do a really good job of that preparation process. So this week will be a little bit of a split between Lamar preparation and just continuing to get better at what we do. And then we'll execute a normal game week starting next Sunday to prepare for our home opener against a really good Lamar team. So this is a fun part of the year, where you get to turn the page a little bit. But certainly early in the year in particular, still a lot of work to be done.
In the scrimmage, Ryan Smith and also Anthony Reagan had some really good moments. Like, what can you say about their abilities individually, and kind of as a coaching staff, is it a good problem to have 5 running backs in your room that can essentially go out and make plays like that?
Well, yeah. I've gotten to sit up here before and talk about having to make decisions between quarterbacks that I felt like we had multiple quarterbacks that we could win with. It's a great position to be in, to get to choose the one you think is the best for your team. I think at running back, the cool thing is, when you have guys that you feel like can impact the game, you go into it with a plan on, how you're going to play them, and then you roll with the hot hand. I think Anthony Reagan in particular kind of had the hot hand and did some really good stuff. Like Saturday, Steve-O wasn't his best day. Well, that's the way it happens sometimes. He's had some days where he was the best one. That's the way it goes a little bit. I think Keyron's done a really good job for a freshman coming in here in June. He's got to continue to detail a lot of things up, and I think that's where his growth needs to take place. He's a mature kid. It's not like he just got to mature, and grow up a little bit, but he's got a ton of ability. Really, he was kind of the one that I was probably most excited to see out of all the freshmen we had coming in. He's one of the few that I hadn't really got to see in person. We had ground level footage and saw stuff from practice, but it's still something to seeing it with your own eyes that kind of, you want to see it. And it's been I don't want to say a surprise. We thought he was a really good player, obviously. But I've been really pleased with his ability to make things happen, his ability to make plays. And I think he's taking steps in the right direction.
What's the situation with JJ? Is he okay injury-wise, or what's his deal?
Yeah, Saturday just didn't he had some tough runs, some bad looks, just didn't have a whole bunch going his way. Had a couple of runs where I didn't think it was very clear, had some dirty runs, and he had to just kind of stick it in there and just try to get what we could. Again, it's one of those days, it just kind of didn't bounce his way, but I think he's had some great days. He's had some days where, like I said, all of them, where it's, he looks the best. And, he's come a long way through fall camp. We talked about it in the spring, like he had to grow up and do some things, and we're still working through it, but he's come a long way. It's just one of those days the ball just kind of didn't find him, for whatever reason. That type of scrimmage is kind of hard to get in the flow. You know what I mean, too, where it's very specific. It's hard to get in the flow on the goal line stuff. Steven's our goal line guy, so those reps go. It just he didn't get a bunch of them, but no, I'm pleased, excited about him. Certainly he's a weapon when we can get him loose a little bit.
What more do you want to see from the pass game, specifically the wide receivers, especially with Shelton coming back? What do you want to see the other wide receivers, I guess, kind of step up in these next few days?
Well, I think it's the guys that have the opportunities to continue to, elevate their play, and that's what we've talked about the whole time. We've had 15 practices, and after 15 practices, there are a number of them that have done it really well that you're really excited about. There's some of them that still haven't done it the way you want it to, and I'm not going to get into specifics. I don't do all that, but it's a long season. I think this is kind of one of those deals where, this is where people get hit in the face, right? When you actually have to start coming out with a depth chart and you have to kind of start putting things into place, and it's how you respond to those things. Because some of them that I think are really good players and going to be really good players have not performed the way I want them to. Well, now you got two choices. You respond and you go and you get better and you go make the improvement we need you to make, or you tank it and you don't help us and you don't get yourself any better. And then whenever we need you down the road, you won't be ready then either. So that's the two choices they got to make. But in general, we just need to continue to clean up the precision in the pass game. Now that you start getting the pieces back into place, some guys that I've been really pleased with, and made plays. And in the 2-minute drill, Trent and Russ make huge plays down the field, that were big for us. I keep talking about Kadarius Wade has had a great camp, putting things together. Christian Brooks had a great day. He catches a touchdown on a, really well thrown ball from Daniel. He makes some plays in the early part of the scrimmage. So, there's a lot of good things that are going on there. Tight ends have played really well. So a lot of good things going on there. It's just some of the guys, it's naturally part of what it is. They haven't had the camp they wanted. Well, now is where you got to have a little mental toughness about you and decide how you approach, good news, bad news, whatever news you get.
You talked about Maxey and Broderick, obviously missing out with the scrimmage and everything like that. But like other guys on the interior of the D-line, maybe a younger player that we haven't been talking about, who's somebody that you can look to say that this is kind of the next guy up or somebody else that could be in the rotation?
Well, naturally Fitz, is not a younger guy. He's already in the middle of that thing, right? And Chase Edwards and those guys. Chase Howard's had a really good camp. Ashton Wright has been really good in moments. Need him to do it a little more consistently, but he's a really talented player. He's taking steps in the right direction. Like I said, I fully expect Maxey to be a very short-term deal. Broderick, I'm certainly hoping, because he's been really good for us. So I'm certainly hoping it won't be a long-term deal that he'll be out for.
The first couple games while you're waiting for Landon to come back, is there you'd like to have 4 or 5 receivers? What's the number that you would like to have to be ready to on a full-time rotation?
Well, you'd love to have 6 that you feel really good about, right? You'd love to have 2 Zs, 2 Hs, 2 Xs that you just feel like we're going to play the guys that are ready. And if it's 4, it's 4, and if it's 5, it's 5, and if it's 6, that's great. But we're not going to put people out there that I don't feel comfortable going out there. So it's kind of up to these guys and how they kind of figure it out a little bit. But the good thing is that I do think we've done a really good job, Coach Leger and Coach Beggy of kind of cross-training some of those guys at H and Z, and Kadarius can do Z and X. So you created a little bit of flexibility to do that. But ideal scenario is 6, and the whoever's playing the best, they start the drives and they go out there and they get most of them. But you don't, when they need to tap and come out, you're not worried about having someone in there that you're worried about not producing or performing. So, I feel really good about 6 when we're all healthy, right? We're not all healthy. So, while Landon's out and hopefully, like I said, Shelton, we feel really good about his return to play protocol here. While we're getting those guys back to 100%, it's going to be important to see. And I think, I've talked about it. I think you got 2 H's that have played really good with Trent and Russ, and we're moving them around a little bit. Kadarius has played really good. I think Christian Brooks has continued to come on. We've got some other guys that have been, hot and cold, and that's where we got to get rid of the cold. We got to, we got to get rid of some of that stuff a little bit to feel good about getting a 6 before we get to week 1.
You talked earlier about Anthony. He also looked like he did some things on special teams in the return game, just from his playmaking ability all around as an athlete. Just how much does that help to be able to have somebody that you can put in like that in special teams as well?
Well, I mean, I think anytime you got guys that make plays with the ball in their hands, it's a good thing. You know, I mean, right now we're not anticipating him being the starting returner, but it's a long season and there's a lot of things that happen throughout the course of the season. So the more guys you have that you feel really good about, I mean, you know, last year, you know, Jacorian was one we thought really highly of early in the year. By the end of the year, you know, kind of felt like we needed to make a change for a number of reasons, and he was ready to go and really was a spark at the end of the year when we needed him in the return game. So, you know, the thing I like about Ant a whole lot is, you know, at the end of spring, you know, we were really honest with where he was and told him things that he had to do better and things that he had to, if he wanted to play here and impact this team, he was going to have to do these things a whole lot better than he did in the spring. And, you know, he didn't pout, he didn't complain, he did them better. And, you know, and that's what you want. That's the response you want. You know, you ask a question about that's the response you want. You know, I say it all the time, you know, we have to tell the truth to them, whether it's good or it's bad. You know, even if it's a hard truth and it's a hard conversation, you have to tell them the truth, and then they have to decide how they're going to respond. Now, telling the truth doesn't mean you have to be demeaning. You know, you can be demanding and not be demeaning. You can be very cordial in the criticism, but they have to get it. They have to know what they need to do better, and then they got to decide to respond. And I think that's been the most fun thing about him is, I mean, it didn't matter what group you put him with. It didn't matter. I mean, every play he went out there, he tried to do things we're asking him to do. And he's, you know, at the point now where I'm really excited about it.
Lamar's going to have a game under its belt. In these days of roster management, is it more valuable to have the game experience, or is it valuable to you to be able to look at their team and look at their personnel?
I don't know. I guess we'll see. I don't know. I mean, it's, you know, there's just so many different ways it can go. I don't know. You know, I'm excited about getting to see them play. You know, they had a really good football team last year. They added some good players to their roster. I think they do a really good job. So I'm excited to see kind of what it looks like. I expect them to be a really well-coached football team that plays really hard, and they've got good players. I mean, I saw it from last year. I know they've signed some good ones. We've followed who they've replaced and who they've taken. So, you know, I'm excited to get to see them play, but I think, you know, something's only an advantage if you take advantage of it, right? So, you know, if we do a good job in preparing and having extra time, and we do a good job with, you know, kind of trying to figure out, you know, how the new pieces fit into what they do, then it'll be an advantage for us. You know, if we don't and they play and they make a bunch of improvement from week 1 to week 2, which everybody does, then it'll be an advantage for them.
You talked about Jacorian as a returner earlier, and you know how you wanted him to be able to step up even more. How have you seen his development as a receiver as he's entering this season?
Yeah, I'm, you know, would like it to be faster than maybe what it has been. But the reality of it, he's still a young player, and it's a position move. And, you know, the flashes are really, really good. You know, I mean, whenever it's on point and he's not thinking and he's playing and it's fast, it's really good. I just think he's got a little more development left to go, but you see the flashes of it and it's exciting. It's just how fast can we get, you know, how fast can we push him along? Particularly, you know, I mean, I say it all the time. It's a long year. So, you know, we got to continue to get his development going because he'll impact our team in the return game for sure. He can impact the game as a receiver. We just need his development to continue. But, you know, it's a young player who's switched positions and, you know, you're just trying to speed it up as much as you can.
From where you thought it was going to be in the secondary, has camp, now that it's over, have the depth chart about the same as you would have predicted, or has there been some movement in the second?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really about the same. You know, I mean, I think guys that we needed to play well have done a good job. You know, I think, you know, obviously you always have – I think we've got pretty good depth in the 2 deep there. And that's the thing that you really, you know, you need and get the opportunity to be able to continue to play guys as time goes on. But, yeah, I mean, it's pretty much what I expected. And, you know, I think our guys that have gone with the 1s have done a really good job. I think our guys with the 2s have done a really good job competing. You know, will there be any big shifts? You know, I mean, we'll see in the next 2 weeks. But it's pretty much what I expected it to be. So, you know, which is a good thing. I mean, I think our 2s are playing really good too. You know, Curly had a good day Saturday. Had a really good day Saturday, which was a good way for him to end camp. You know, I think he's another one that, the good is really good. It's consistency in the play and production, but he had some really good moments. I mean, he had a couple breakups. He had a big play at the end of the game, right? Obviously, a shot to the end zone. He ends up getting a pick on, plays it really well. There's a lot of things that he did really well Saturday that, we just need him to continue to do, day in and day out. And he's shown he can. Now it's like how much can we get him to consistently do it, and how much can he consistently do it to help us, because he's got the tools to be able to help us.
We talked about before camp on the offensive line that kind of the magic number for you was around 8 that you would like in the rotation. Is that kind of where you see things, or is it maybe 2 to 3 more guys that have pushed to make position to get in the rotation also?
Yeah, I mean, I think I feel really good about 8 right now. I think right now the battle is kind of for who's our 4th tackle. I think between Jace and Zay and George, you feel really good about those 3 guys playing tackle. Jace plays really good inside as well. Martinez played really well for us last year. He's had a good camp. Jacoby Isom and Matt B and Caden Morrow and Coop feel really good about that whole crew. It's kind of who's the 4th tackle right now. And, coming out of it, I'd say it's going to be 3 young guys that are competing for that 4th spot. And, good thing is that you got time for them to compete, and hopefully you don't need them to have to put them in a situation before they're ready. But that's probably what we're at right now, and trying to figure out that 9th, 10th guy, and who that's going to be at tackle.
How are things looking as far as tight end 3, kind of with that battle and everything? Is that coming a little clearer?
Yeah, I'm actually really pleased with the guys who have stepped up, that were in the mix for that. Coming out of spring, again, I was very clear in here, but I was very clear with them in their exit meetings that I didn't feel good about anybody behind Caden Jensen and Brock. I just felt like the consistency and performance was not very good. I would say Quandre Emiliano and Teddy Golick have absolutely stepped up and had really good fall camps. Quandre's still young, and I think there's still days where it's not what you want it to be. But when it's all on and it's all going the right direction, he is incredibly talented. Like Saturday, he didn't have a great scrimmage Saturday. Well, and it was a lot of small things that accumulate into not a great day. Didn't run out in the street and have anything really bad. But Teddy and Emiliano have really done a great job. I'm really excited about Quandre and his progression. So feel really good about having a 3 and a 4 there, and potentially a 5th guy that, hopefully you can get some time and try to get his feet wet a little bit. And like I said, hopefully Brock's deal is minimal and he's back in week 1. But if not, I do feel a whole lot better right now than I did coming out of spring practice about where we were in that room.
Pressure on the quarterback. I mean, it seems like you've got some guys that could help at it. Have you seen a market improvement there?
Yeah. I mean, I think we're doing a good job there. We're cutting up the front a little bit too, and in the past situations, some of the games and stuff are hard to manage. I think we got some guys that are getting home. I think when you run games, there's always a double-edged sword. You got to make sure that you get the right pieces back in the spokes to contain it and keep them in the pocket. Which we've done a much better job of. But, I think the biggest thing in rushing is doing your job really well. If you're the contain guy, then you need to get your rear end out there and contain it. Because if you get a little bit of disruption on the inside, on the opposite side, and he goes to flush, if you're not in the right spot, which is a problem we've had in the past, well, it's just going to flush and roll out, and then it's a pressure, and it's not a sack. Well, if you're in the right spot, then you get sacked. So it's 4 guys working together, plus whoever you got added in the rush as a blitzer. But I do think that we've been a lot better with being where we're supposed to be. The good thing is we've got some pretty mobile quarterbacks that they get to see every day. When you're not in the right spot, no matter what you do on the front, if he gets out and he's got time, we can't cover long enough. I mean, nobody can, to cover 5 seconds, So we've gotten to see that. I think there's been a lot of good in it. Do I think we have a dominant pass rusher, Mike Green from a couple years ago? No. But I think the sum of the parts can be really good when we're playing together, and it has been.
How worried are you about you mentioned it a few weeks ago, Shelton didn't really do anything in the spring, and now he's basically missed all of camp, and you have a returning quarterback, but they haven't played that much together. How worried are you about just their connection is going to be critical to this season?
Well, sure. I mean, I think it's certainly always a concern. You know, they got a lot of time this summer, which was really good. But yeah, it's been a month, you know, without that timing and all that stuff. So, you know, we got a couple weeks, try to speed it up and try to get them on the same page. But at the same time, you can't overdo it with a guy who's been hurt. You know, I think you got to manage his return to play. The thing is, I do feel really good about some of the other guys who've made plays. I do feel really good about some of the other guys that I know Shelton doesn't need to be the primary on every pass concept that we've got. We've got other guys who have made really good plays. We have other guys who have shown that they're dependable, who can make plays, who can make things happen. So I think that allows you to kind of ease him back into it a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I'd be lying if I said there's no concern. There's certainly concern about it, right? Timing and tempo and all that stuff, and precision and shooting, just him and his conditioning, which he's done everything he can to stay in great shape, and he's been engaged. He's been great. But you know, the only way to get in football shape is play football. So, you know, these next couple weeks will be big for him, and we're gonna have to do a good job and manage his workload to get him what he needs, but not overdo it where he's, you know, ready to go as sharp as he can be for week one.
Was Saturday kind of a rest day for Connor McPherson? And notice he was in a non-contact, and also other linebackers in the room. You mentioned about Harrison Kader. How have you seen them kind of continue to integrate themselves and learn the system and be able to go out and make plays?
Yeah, I'm really fired up about that room. I mean, to be honest with you, yeah, Connor it's kind of a nagging shoulder thing. It's not surgical. It's not anything like that. We just kind of, you know, what the term they use, abundance of caution, kind of held him out. He'll be non-contact again tomorrow. Then on Wednesday we'll get him back rolling. Just trying to let it calm down a little bit so he can get back to it. I'm excited about that room though. It's been fun to see the guys in that room compete day after day, and to see them communicate and how well they're doing things. I mean, they play really physical. You know, we got some guys that can really run sideline to sideline. I mean, you know, you go across the board. I mean, hell, the only one that was really a linebacker in high school, or the only two, were Malbrew and Jake. All the rest of them were safeties. I mean, all of them. Kader, Ethan Veal, Connor. Devin Franklin, you know, is a young player, and he's not ready yet. But you know, you see the athleticism and the speed there. It's been fun to watch him. I mean, Harrison's a kid that I think everyone in our building is really excited about. I mean, he's physical, he's fast, he's smart. He's handled no matter what group we've put him in there with. He's jumped in there and he's just hit the ground running. I mean, the kid is, you know, comes from a really good program, and he's really well coached. But he's gotten here and he's taken it incredibly seriously. And, you know, he's put himself in position. I don't see a scenario where he doesn't impact our team this year. You know, I mean, I think from the beginning, special teams, there's no question he's going to have a role there. And I think, you know, I mean, he handles the defensive stuff really well. I have no hesitation if we feel like, hey, we need to get him in there. We're good to go. But Micah Johnson's been great. I mean, he's playing like a vet. You know, he's worked really hard to get to this point. You know, he moved from safety to linebacker. And this, I would say last year, you know, when we got into the season, he was on scout team all year last year. And I saw his progress day after day, week after week on scout team, and said, you know, this kid's going to be something for us. And, you know, he's one of those guys that, you know, you talk about working while you wait. I mean, the guy has worked, and it's a good room. It's a really good room, and I'm excited to see them play, because I think you got great leadership and guys like Jake, but you got some great young players, man, that are hungry, that want to play really good for this team, and they compete.